So, let me explain what is it. What is management? So this is management. You all know that. Okay. So that is how we define management in our class. I'm going to highlight some of the points. Okay. So it's art, it's a science, and it is related to leading a group of people and towards organizational goals. So I missed something. What did I miss? Tell me.
Sir, maybe you forgot to share the screen.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Can I see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. Okay. So management is the art and science of leading a group of people towards organizational goal in effective and efficient. Efficient. Oh God, please. So this is the definition. So what does a manager do? And we started our class by saying that you all will end up being managers. Even if you start your own business, you will probably have the responsibility to manage the business. So what does a manager do? A manager is not like a worker. He does not do what a worker does. A worker does what? A worker does the operational things. If an organization is supposed to produce garment products, then the workers are going to produce the products. So what does the manager do? Managers are not always directly involved in the production. So what does a manager do? That is it. So a manager does management. So what is management? Management is the art. The first thing that you need to focus on is like art, this art thing, then science of leading a group of people towards organizational goals. So we're going to focus on goals in effective and efficient ways. So if you understand this definition, you'll be better off. You'll at least get half of 50% of the total marks, because whatever question I ask, you'll probably be able to answer those questions if you understand this definition properly. So the first thing is art. Why is like management and art? Can anyone say? Can anyone answer to this question? Why art? Why did I say it's art? Okay. And why did I say? Yeah. If you want to say anything, yeah, you can. You're welcome. Tell me why art and why science.
Sir, because we don't only use the scientific methods, and we
Yes.
use our intuitive or something. I forgot the word.
Intuition, yeah, that's true.
Intuition,
So
yeah.
yeah, so
Intuition.
thank you for being smart. You got the point. So that is where management is like an art and also a science. Sometimes we take decision based on science, based on factors. For example, if bank A and bank B, we need 200,000 taka, and bank A is offering the loan against 6% interest, and another bank is offering the loan against 7% interest. So technically this is the better option, and we are taking this decision based on mathematics, based on fact. So sometimes as a manager you are going to take decisions based on fact. That is why we call management as a science, because we have so many quantitative things in management. For example, probability and financial things, and there are a number of things where you are going to use science. For example, how much should our production be? That how much should our production be? What is the demand? What is the There are so many decisions that you will probably need to take basis on the basis of science or quantitative decisions. And there is a huge portion of management where you'll have to come up with your subjective judgment. I mean, there is no one true thing. There is no one true decision, one good right decision or bad decision. So in such cases you need to have good intuitions, where you're going to use your artistic mind, you're going to use some subjective judgment. Yeah. So as a manager, you'll have to have knowledge of quantitative way of determining or getting into a decision, getting into a result, and also the qualitative side. And the task, your task will be to lead a group of people. So you are going to be a leader towards organizational goals. Okay, so we talked about organizational goals. Different organizations have different goals. Some organizations want to become the, for example, if we talk about uh, quality and quantity, some organizations want to provide goods at a very lower cost. That is their goal. Some organization wants to provide goods at a, or some organization want to produce qualityful products. So goal actually varies from one organization to another. Some organizations are into service. Some organizations are into production. So it depends. It depends on the organization. What is the goal? And we are going to push our, as a managers, we are going to push our workers, or we are going to lead our workers towards the organizational goal in an effective and efficient way. So effective way means we are doing it right, and efficient means we are doing things rightly, or doing the right thing, sorry. Effective means doing the right thing, and efficient means doing things right. So what, let me give you some examples so that you remember what we talked about in our scheduled classes. The first thing I probably give you this example, that if you want to gain muscle, you're not supposed to run every morning, because if you run, there's no way, even though you are working so hard, even though you want to, even though you are doing everything you can in order to reach the goal, but if you do the wrong thing, then ultimately, regardless of your pure intention, regardless of your effort that you have put into that business, you're not going to succeed. That is why a manager, you need to understand as a manager what particular strategy is going to make you successful. That is like being effective. If you want to gain muscle, your main thing, your intention will be to carry or like lift weight, right? That is how you are going to gain muscle. You need to eat protein. But if you want to lose your like weight, in that case you can run. So effective, being effective is I mean, as a manager, you need to have the understanding, you need to have that conceptual skills, conceptual knowledge of how you can um, take your people to the goal. And efficient is like using up as little resources as possible. That is what you call being efficient. For example, if you probably came up with this example, that if a student gets an A just by studying for 5 hours, and another student gets an A studying for 15 hours, then I would say the student who has got an A studying for 5 hours is the efficient one. So that is how we are going to define management. So management is like the art, and in chapter 2 we talked about so many things, right? Do you remember? In chapter 2, what did we talk about? We talked about, let's see how we can relate to everything. In chapter 2 we talked about internal and external environmental thing, right? Internal and external things. For example, we talked about organizational culture, we talked about the demography, geography, political situation. So these are the things that are going to affect your judgment, that are going to affect your performance, and so many things. So and science, this particular thing you're going to learn. For example, operations management, where you are going to use some scientific method to end up in a good managerial decision and leading. So I think you've got the idea probably. So the next thing that I want to discuss about is like, what does a manager do? What does a manager do? What does a manager do? So we know managers do so many things, but they are not technically, you cannot say that they do not do any work. Probably they do some kind of functional things, but the main thing that a manager is supposed to do is like he planning, he organizes, he leads or leading, and number 4 is controlling. So I'm going to give you some key points, so that if you remember those key points, you'll probably be able to write. I mean, you'll be able to write. For example, planning has 2 things. One is, where do we want to go, where, and number 2 is, how are you going to go there, how. Organizing has 2 or 3 things. For example, dividing the work among different functional groups, dividing the work And number two is like uh, communication channel or reporting channel. Who is going to report to whom, right? Who is going to
Giving
report?
authorities,
Yes, authorities, right? Reporting
allocating
channel.
authorities and resources.
Exactly. So resource and authorities, resource and authorities. It's really hard to write with a mouse. So probably you're going to understand what I'm writing. Resources and authorities. Authorities. So that is what we do. So if the word organizing is vague to you, just remember this thing, like this thing, CEO, and sorry, wait. This is like this is how we organize. Then head of marketing, head of management, production, you can say head of HR. This is organizing, okay? Head of HR, head of this and that. Then they have assistant manager, assistant manager, then worker. So this is the thing. This is how we organize an organization, and by doing that, we distribute the work, we distribute the job responsibility, and also we determine who is going to report to whom. For example, this assistant manager is supposed to report to this head of marketing, and he's supposed to report to this. So this is what we do when we talk, this is what we refer to when we talk about organizing. Then leading, how are you going to lead? We either try to punish for not living up to the standard. uh, Wait a second. We can punish, or we can reward, we can give them rewards for, or motivate thing. And controlling, just remember this thing so that you can write something in the exam, regardless of your understanding of the term. Controlling is like two things. One is comparing, and the next one is rectifying. So what does it mean? We try to compare the actual result with our planned one, actual result and the planned one. For example, and the planned one, whatever. So for example, we plan to increase our production by 150%. That was our plan. After that, we organized resources, we did so many things, we tried to motivate our employees, but at the end of the quarter we found out that we could only increase our production by 140%. So our plan was 150% and we reached up to 140%. So there is a 10% discrepancy of 10%, right? So the first thing we need to compare in controlling is the first thing we need to compare whether we could reach our goal or not. If we could reach our goal, then it's fine. The plan should go on in the next quarter. But now that there is a deficit, or there is a discrepancy between the actual one and the planned one, now we know that there is a problem. We are not being able to reach our goal, so we need to take some rectifying or corrective decisions. So there must be something that is not going according to the plan, so we'll have to find those out and we'll have to take corrective actions, so that when we'll plan in the next phase, we'll not do the same mistake. Make sense? Everyone, make sense? Does anyone have any question? Does it make sense? Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Okay, so we can see when we talked about organizing, you can see there are so many things. Let's make something good, something beautiful. For example, this is an organization, Square Limited. Yes, were you? There's an organization, it's like Square Limited. They have textile, they have pharma, they have what else? Food. Okay, we'll talk about just one thing, pharma. This, this, this. Now we are going to talk about this thing. So pharma has a CEO, right? CEO. And under the CEO, so many other people will work. For example, the head of production, head chemist, or head of chemical department, head of HR, head of HR, head of marketing, head of finance, these things are getting like very redundant, but it's going to help you to remember. It's not a problem if it is getting redundant to you, because there are so many students in my class who have not attended the class. Even if they had attended, they paid no attention. So it is going to help them. So uh, there are so many heads, and under those heads, for example, we are going to take this marketing one. These heads, they're like senior manager, three senior managers, senior managers, and under each of the senior managers there are like assistant managers, three assistant managers, assistant manager. Under each assistant managers there are like field level employees, field workers, field level workers, right? That is how an organization is organized generally. So this is the very basic form of, and in the chapter we have a chapter that is called organizing. We're going to learn about different types of organization, where you'll probably not see that all organizations are probably not does not probably look like this. There are some different kinds of organization. We're going to talk about that in details when we will talk about when we will learn that chapter. But for now on, just keep this image in your mind. This is how a typical organization should look like. Now that we can see there are different kinds of managers, there are managers. Let me take this color. Okay, so our management level starts from here, this one, and this is also another level of management, this one, and this is the bigger one, big fish. So we can distinguish, or we can categorize level of management. This is like top management, top. They are the mid, and they are the first level or supervisory level, first level manager. So we can see, even though there are a good number of managers in an organization, but not all the managers belong into the same category. There will be different types of categories, and depending on which category they belong to, their responsibilities, their ways of dealing with people will vary, and also their skills requirement will vary. So to talk about this, what kind of skills does a first line manager need? For example, we talked about. I do believe that you know that by now. I'm not going to talk about in details. The first level manager will always need technical skills. Technical skills. Technical skills. For example, if the workers are in need of anything, or if the workers, for example, just to make it easier for you, just consider this to be a production department, not marketing department. Huh? This is a production department. Now, at a pharmaceutical company, the production department generally produces all the medicines. So if the worker who is responsible for producing these things, if he faces any problem that a chemical is not getting mixed with another, the chemical was supposed to get mixed with another chemical, but it is not getting mixed. Now the workers will reach out to their first level managers, and the first level manager must have that technical knowledge to understand why this is not happening, what is the problem there. So technical knowledge actually refers to the knowledge that you should have, that an organization primarily needs for producing its products. And what kind of, that is the technical knowledge that should be that is required by the first line manager and somewhat by the midline manager. And the midline managers, they are like the heads. They are like a bit more sophisticated than the first line managers. But remember one thing: when you will graduate, after your graduation, you're always going to start your career as a first line manager, probably as a assistant manager, or yeah, probably as an assistant manager or a junior manager or something like that, or executive. So the first line manager, as a first line manager, you need to have some technical skills. And as midline manager, so what kind of skill does a mid-level manager need? A mid-level manager typically has some sort of technical skill, and also a very, 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 very strong hold over human skills. They must have human skills. Human skills include emotional intelligence, that I talk a lot about, because I think this is very important for you to, in order to become a mature person. If you think you are a university going student and you should behave properly, you must have emotional intelligence, and unless and until you have that, you are just like a baby. Okay, and you need to have empathy. Empathy. You need to understand. You need to put yourself in the shoes of your employees so that you can understand how they feel, so that you will be able to understand whether you should talk with them this way or not. Sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes, if, for example, if you come to me with a problem that is taking place in your life, and I just react like very harshly, that would be a very bad thing to do, because when would I react so harshly? When I will not be able to put myself in your shoe, that is when I would probably react so harshly, right? So as a manager, you should not do that. You need to have that empathy towards the people you are going to lead to. And by human skill, we also refer to communication skill, because this CEO is not going to talk to the first line managers by themselves. Rather, the CEO, since in a typical organization, the CEO makes all the plan. When the plan is ready, he will just disseminate the plan to all of his departments, and the task of the second manager will be to disseminate the plan to the first line manager. So they must have a very good communication, and if anything happens in the organization at the lower level, and if they need to deliver that news to the top level manager, they need to have a very good communication skill. That is it. And what is the skill requirement of the CEO or top level manager? Conceptual. So you already know this conceptual skill. Conceptual skill, like, is like seeing the bigger picture. Uh, we gave the we gave you the what is it called? We gave you an example where we said why Coca-Cola. The why did the last advertisement of Coca-Cola backfire? Because the top managers could not see the bigger picture. When you are a top manager, what kind of skill would you need? You'd probably need human skill, and another skill that will distinguish yourself from other kinds of managers is your conceptual skill. You understand the domino effect. You know what does domino effect means? You'll see so many there are so many cars like this. One fell off, and if one falls off, other will follow. So that is like the domino effect. So if anything happens in one part of the organization, how that particular decision or how that particular occurrence is going to affect all other things, that is the bigger picture. You need to understand how the economy or the change in the government policy or change in the political regime or change in the in foreign policy is going to affect my business. You need to have that understanding. You need to have the understanding of understanding the market. You need to have the understanding of your customers. How are they going to react if I introduce this product to them? So this is the conceptual skill. And one thing that every manager must have is like the human skill. It's universal. You cannot exclusively attribute this skill to only one category of management. Does it make sense? Are you following me? are, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So we are probably done with our chapter one. Different types of managers, what kind of skills they need, what does organization mean, what does management mean, what is efficiency and effectiveness, what is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. We are not going to talk about this because I think this is like too ambiguous, and it doesn't make any sense. So I am deleting this slide. We talked about the skill. Oh, fine. You see, we're done. We're done with the first chapter. We're now going to talk about the historical aspect. What is scientific management and what is administrative management? So, in management, we divide to our management into many parts. But the basic idea is like there is two big famous schools of management. One is like scientific management. Scientific management, and another is like administrative management. Mute your mic. Administrative management. So the first thing that you need to understand is that they are not mutually exclusive. They are not like the opponents of each other. These two are different schools, and one has nothing to do with the another. If they have a particular pros, it doesn't mean that that is their cons. So these two schools are like they address different problems that are prevalent in organizations, but they are not the opposite uh, or the mirror view of each other. Do you understand? So we are not going to compare these two things, but we are technically going to talk about the schools, different schools, one by one. The first one is scientific management. It is 100% it is concerned about employee efficiency. So the story goes by like this, that Mr. F.W. Taylor, who is the father of scientific management, F.W. Taylor, or we call it Taylorism. Mr. F.W. Taylor, he was a manager at a steel company, and when he was a manager during his tenure, he experienced that people were deliberately not working hard. Deliberately, they were wasting time. Deliberately, they were soldiering. So what does soldiering mean? It means they thought that if we work hard, probably some of us will get sacked from the job, because I know I am capable of doing. I mean, if we deliberately decrease our productivity, in that case, the management or the owner of the company will be bound somehow, will be bound to keep us all in the organization. But if we work hard, if we increase our productivity, then he'll probably find that since our productivity has increased, I'll probably not need this many people, so I'm going to sack some of them. So that was the idea. That is why people used to soldier. What we call it, soldiering. Deliberately not working hard, deliberately wasting resources, deliberately putting less effort into the into what they do. So now Mr. F.W. Taylor came up with an idea that if it keeps on, if it is like going on in another thing that I want to walk you through, that is, what is the main problem of this world? The main problem is we have limited resources and our needs are unlimited. So management, what does economics do? Economics answers to those 3 or 4 questions where it tries to address, since we have limited resources but our needs are unlimited, now how we can use those limited resources to address as many needs as possible. So it means we have very limited resources, unlimited needs. Now how we can use these limited resources to address as many needs as we can. And that is where the idea of management came from. In management, what do we want? We want to maximize the efficiency, we want to maximize the productivity, so that the organization can live up to the organization, or so that we can use the optimum use of the resources we have. We can make sure that we are using the limited resources as efficiently as we can. So that is the idea of economics and management, how and how that is how we can blend these two ideas all together. So my idea was, the point was, Mr. F.W. Taylor was saying that since we are wasting up so many hours, we are wasting up so many resources. I must come up with something. I must come up with an idea. I must come up with a particular guideline of or particular set of practices, so that we can make sure that everyone is using up the resources we have at a very 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 in a very efficient way. So he came up with 4 ideas. The number one was like, since that is like a rule of thumb, that is like one best way of doing thing. Best way of doing thing. It means in his particular mill, if a worker, I mean, there for example, if I take you to a garment factory where people are supposed to do some identical things in a section. For example, if I take you to the cutting section, all of the people are supposed to do identical things. They are not doing anything very creative. So things that they are supposed to do are very identical. Now if everyone does the same thing in a particular way, they're going to be more efficient. Then I do however I want to, and everyone is doing however they want to. It is going to kill time, right? So Mr. F.W. Taylor came up with the idea of forcing people, making people do things in a one best way. So he scientifically analyzed how a work should be done. For example, if there is like bricks here and it has to be transported to this place, now how we should carry out this particular task so that uh, we can transfer all of these things at this from this place to this place at a very less amount of time, and we using the least amount of people. So he actually analyzed every bit of the task, how we can find out the best way of doing thing. So in every task you can find out the best way of doing thing. Don't you think so? Don't you think so? In every organization, wherever you go, you'll find there is a particular procedure, there is a specific procedure of carrying out a specific task. Why is that? Because if there is no specific way of doing those things, then people will waste much time and people will become very much inefficient. So that is the first rule of scientific management, because we want to, since we want to ensure efficiency, we need to have a particular way of doing things. Number two is like, where is that? Oh, okay, so number two is scientifically select and train in each. The first one is develop a science for each element of an individual's work, which will replace the all. I mean, that is what I try to say. Coming up with a one best way, coming up with one best way of doing things. Number two is scientifically select and train. So previously, whoever wanted to work, we would just recruit him without checking his background, without trying to fit himself in one of the segments. So the thing was, if you have no experience in anything, now you came to my organization with a good reference, I'm recruiting you and I am asking you where do you want to work, and you just not knowing anything, you said probably this way or that, in this department or that department. So in that case, I would say that is not a good way of recruiting. By doing that, you are doing injustice or you are doing disservice to the organization. The basic idea of scientific management here is to train. First, to recruit korte hobe. You need to recruit the right people. Recruit the right people. Right people in your organization. And you need to find the best people for the job. You need to train them. Previously, there was no idea of training employees. So it might sound so ridiculous to you that why would people not train, because the idea was not in existence 200 years ago. The idea of training people, not probably 200 100 years ago, the idea of finding out the best people for the job, the idea of training them to make them more efficient is very new, and it came from this guy, Mr. F.W. Taylor. He came up with these ideas, recruiting the best people, and like cooperate with the workers. So you need to, the manager should have a cooperative mind, and divide the work and responsibility almost equally between the management and workers. So manager must know what they are supposed to do, and the workers also will know what they are supposed to do. There must be mental revolution. There will be a feeling of cooperation. So that is what scientific management is. It is technically very much related to employee efficiency. So there are so many criticism of scientific management. It actually says that if you try to find out one of the best ways, so it doesn't work for everyone, right? If the best way is to batting right, for example, আপনি হচ্ছেন, you are a right-handed batter. Now I am making you bat with your left hand, so that is not going to probably work for you. So it always does not work. And another thing that you must put into consideration is workers are not machines, they are human beings. So you cannot always keep them under your monitor, and you cannot always push them to do the best. There will be fluctuations, there will be good days and bad days, right? So scientific management, probably we have extracted so many learnings, so many lessons from this particular school, but it doesn't always mean that they are absolutely correct. So does anyone have any question from scientific management? You're going to have questions in your meet from this. Any question? Scientific management, it is like, this is not the I mean, this is not what we studied when we were students. What we studied, let me show you. Okay, so that is like science, not rule of thumb. Harmony, not discord. Cooperation, not individualism. Development each with greatest efficiency. Ooh, let me show you. So this is it. This is it. To be very honest, if you remember these four things, that will do. Science, not rule of thumb. It means one best way of doing thing. One best way of doing thing. Rule of thumb means I do the way I want to. You do the way you want to. I mean, that is how my father has been doing this for years. That is how my mother used to do this for years. Now I'm going to do that. That is like we are bringing in science, not rule of thumb. bringing in science. It means we are examining the each element, each part of the work, each part of the task, and we came up with the best way of doing things. Harmony. You need to have cooperation. That is what it means. Heartily cooperate. Harmony. You need to have harmony. Oh, sorry. So this is the cooperation, not individualism. You should not always look for your own benefit. You need to be cooperative and development of each and every person. This is not the one I was looking for. Let me look for some more. Okay, I think you got the idea. Harmony, not discord. Cooperation, science and rule of thumb. Yeah, mental revelation. I think this will do. So if you do not have any question, do you have any question from anything? If not, then I'm going to move to the administrative management. Administrative management. The previous one was about the employee efficiency. Employee efficiency. And this one is about what? This one is about how are you going to run the organization efficiently and effectively. That was about the employee, and this is about the organization itself. And the previous one was about the employee. This one is about the management and organization, managers and organization. Okay, so this has been proposed by our very dear Mr. Henry Fayol. Mr. Henry Fayol is probably the first individual who came up with the principles of management that we are going to talk about now. So he came up with the ideas. He provided, or he gave us 14 rules, 14 principles following which a manager can be a good manager, or an organization should have these things in order to be a successful organization. This is what he actually thinks. He used to think, and this 14 specific rules still hold water. It means they are still as relevant as they were when they had been produced, or when they had been published. The first one is division of work. You're not supposed to do everything by yourself. In an organization, you'll not find no organization in this world where an individual is supposed to do the whole thing. He does only part of it. That is the division of work. Authority. A manager must have the authority to give orders. So if you ask me, sir, is there any organization where the managers cannot give order to their subordinates? Yes, there are government organizations in Bangladesh where you'll find that the managers are not being able to do anything because the subordinates are more powerful than the managers. You'll find these things. So if that happens, the organization is not like living, or the organization is not going to do anything good. Discipline means employees must obey and respect the rules of the organization. So that is like you need to come in the class within the first 10 minutes of the class. If you come later, then I'll probably not be able to help you, and you cannot ask for the favor, right? Unit of command. So every employee should receive order from only one supervisor. Whenever I made a organogram, have you ever noticed that we never had more than one boss at any position? Who is the boss of this person? Think about it like this. Okay, this one. So who is the boss? He is the boss. Who is his boss? He is his boss. A boss can have more than one subordinates, but a subordinate can never have more than one boss. এই ওয়ার্কারটার কথা চিন্তা করেন, ওর বস হচ্ছে উনি, ওর কথা চিন্তা করেন উনি. So you are not going to have more than one boss, but you will probably have more than one subordinates. Make sense? আপনারা কি বুঝতে পারতেছেন ক্লাসের পড়াশোনা? কেউ আছেন নাকি সবাই চলে গেছেন?
Yes, sir.
ওকে, গুড. তারপর হচ্ছে কোথায় ছিল স্লাইড? ওকে, তারপর হচ্ছে ইউনিট অফ কমান্ড. এটা তো বললাম. ইউনিট অফ ডিরেকশন. ইউনিট অফ ডিরেকশনটা আসলে ইম্পর্টেন্ট. দেখেন আমার এখানে দ্য সিইও চাই কি? সিইও চাচ্ছে হচ্ছে আমার প্রফিট বাড়াবো, আর তখন যদি প্রোডাকশনের হেড চাই আমি কোয়ালিটি বাড়াবো, হবে? কোয়ালিটি বাড়াতে হলে তো প্রফিট কমে যাবে. সো ইউ নিড টু কিপ দ্যাট ইন মাইন্ড, যে ডিরেকশনটা সেম থাকতে হবে. এই জন্য অনেক সময় টপ ডাউন আমরা বলি, উপর থেকে যখন হয় প্ল্যানটা তৈরি হয় তখন নিচ পর্যন্ত যেতে যেতে এটা মানে ইউ নিড টু হ্যাভ দ্য ডিরেকশন আইডেন্টিফাইড বিফোর হ্যান্ড ওয়ার ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু গো অ্যান্ড all the managers or managers of all, each level must understand where the direction is. Okay. Then subordination of individual interest to the general interest. As a manager, you should not think about yourself. You should not think about your personal benefit. Rather, you should always be mindful about the benefit of the organization. That is what we all should have as good individuals, good human beings. Remuneration. If you recruit good people and if you do not pay them enough, in that case they are not going to stay in your organization for a long time. They will leave, they look for other options. So that is why there is so much corruption in our government sector. They are taking in very talented people, but they are like the remuneration is very poor. That's why they are somehow they have legalized the corruption. Centralization and decentralization, you talked about this. When a decision is taken from the center, if all the decision in my chart is taken by this particular individual CEO, then it is what we will call centralization. But if the if other types of manager, for this manager, that manager, that manager, that manager, they all have decision making power, we'll call it decentralized. For example, if this particular worker reaches out to this assistant manager for a leave, and if the assistant manager has the authority to grant him that leave, then we'll say this is decentralized, because these managers who are not top managers, they also have decision making capacity, or that is why they are like managers in fact. Then, if you to talk about order, scalar chain is like the line of authority from top to bottom. Who you must know that who are you going to report to, and you must know that who is going to listen to you. And if you do not know the scalar chain, if you do not know the line of authority, then there will be a chaos. Because I cannot. I mean, if you are my subordinate, you are not supposed to order me. I am supposed to order you, and it must be. So you are taking this for granted nowadays, because you are seeing this is in practice for a long time, just because of these people. These were not like this before. Just remember, the scenario of organization, the way you see it, is the result of what these guys have proposed some 150 years ago. The organizations were not like this earlier. Okay. Order, right people in the right place, right people in the right place at the right time, that is order. I mean, we have problems in order in our country in so many places. If the for example, if the chairman of our hockey board is not a hockey player himself, or he does not have any experience in hockey, then how is he going to manage? Does it make sense? It does not. So order is like putting in the right people in the right place. Equity is like you are not going to treat someone just because he is from your hometown. As a manager, this is very important for you to understand and assimilate, and to uh, permanently imprint that in your mind, because you are going to be managers. If you can follow these, but these specific 14 rules, you are going to be good managers. So even though this sounds very cliche and everyone knows that this is obvious, we are going to be kind to everyone, we are going to treat everyone equally, even though it sounds very cliche, but remember, these things will change when you will be in that position. It is always so hard to treat everyone fairly, to treat everyone equally, because there will be people who you personally like, there will be people who are from your hometown and they will expect something from you, there will be people who are your relatives. So treating people with fair judgment is hard sometimes. Stability of tenure of a person. So as a manager, you must make sure that your employees are not afraid of being sacked. It means there will be provision, or there will be a particular career plan for them, that if you are here for 5 years and after then you are going to get promoted to that position, and then that position, for example, if someone joins as an assistant manager and he doesn't know where he is going to end up in after 20 years, he'll probably look for another organization and he'll probably look for switching, right? But if he knows how he is going to, if he knows that he has the potential to reach to this point, and he's not going to lose his job unless and until he does anything that is like very much detrimental to the organization or detrimental to the reputation of the organization. He's not going to get sacked. If you can make that sure, he's going to stay in that organization for a long period of time. That is what we are trying to say by this stability of tenure or of personal, is right? Initiative. So if anyone takes initiative in your organization, don't undermine him, listen to him. Entrepreneurship, if you remember, entrepreneurship is like an individual who has the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial characteristics of an entrepreneur in an organization. Even though he is not starting and running his own business, he is working under your business, but he has the characteristics of an entrepreneur. In that case, just don't let him down or don't stop him. Let him rise. This is going to help you in the long run. Spirit the decorps it means এটার মানে হচ্ছে যে unity is the strength. So this is all from chapter 1. Does anyone have any question? This has been a good review. You don't have to memorize anything. If you understand and if you have a good communication skills, if you have a good writing skill, you're going to get good marks. So does anyone have any question from this? Okay, no question. So I'm moving to my next chapter. And আপনাদের কিন্তু কুইজ হবে এটার উপর, এই চ্যাপ্টার 2 এর উপর, আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং দ্য ম্যানেজারিয়াল কনটেক্সট। আমি পুরো সবগুলো পড়াতে পারবো না তো, সিন্স আমাদের কনস্ট্রেন্ট আছে টাইমের। আপনারা বলেন কোনটা ভালো হয়, চ্যাপ্টার 2 নাকি চ্যাপ্টার 7? Which one? Chapter 2 or chapter 7? Which one you want me to talk about?
Chapter 7, sir.
So chapter 7.
Okay. Your quiz is on chapter 2. Remember that, okay? Or chapter 7, I don't remember. The quiz কিসে দিয়েছিলাম?
Chapter 7, sir.
Quiz chapter 7 এ?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Right. My bad. You need a break? I think we can resume at 4, okay? Take a break of 10 minutes. Okay?